So I've secured my timber between the two centres here. I've got my planed down piece of mahogany, turned blank, and what I have on the end here is a circle with a diameter of 32. So what I'm going to do now is turn this piece of timber down to a cylinder with a diameter of 32. I'll use this circle here on the end as a guide, as well as checking with the odd leg calipers. To turn it down to the cylinder, I'm going to use the U-shaped gouge. So what I want to do now is to mark on my linear dimensions according to the drawing here. So from the right hand side, I'm going to be marking lines at 15, 55, 100, 140 millimetres, all from the very right hand edge. So having now marked my linear dimensions on the piece of timber, I'm going to use my parting tool to reduce the diameter to 15 on the very right hand side, as you can see here on the working drawing. So we've got a length of 15 and a diameter of 15. So I'm going to use my parting tool to reduce this section here on the right hand side to 15. I'll also use the parting tool to create this waste area on the very left hand side after my measurement of 140. So I don't have a particular diameter to turn this down to because this whole area will be cut off as waste. So what I'm going to do just now is use the odd leg calipers to check the diameter of this section. Put the odd leg calipers, or the outside calipers I should say, not odd leg, outside calipers. Outside of this piece to get the diameter. I will then use my steel rule to measure the distance. So currently that's at 21 millimetres, so I need to take a further 6 to reduce this to 15. Two more millimetres to go. That's now in 16 millimetres. What I can do is sand this down for the remaining millimetre. So when I come to apply a finish to this later on, I'll use my 80 grit sandpaper and reduce the diameter down to 15. I can now remove the waste area. I can now part down on this line here at 140 millimetres to create the waste area on the left hand side. With the waste area on the left hand side, there was no specific dimension to work to. I just had to reduce the diameter on that side. So what I need to do now, from the two lines I have remaining, the line at 55 and the line at 100, I need to reduce the diameter to 21 millimeters on both the right and the left hand end. To do that, I'll be using a skewed chisel, starting on the lines and working out towards the outside edges, maintaining a diameter of 30 in the middle section here and working it down to 21 on both the left and right hand sides. Before I begin to do that, I'm going to move my tool rest closer as I've reduced the diameter of the piece of timber, so I can move the tool rest closer to make this easier for me. I'll spin the piece by hand just to make sure that it's not going to come into contact with the tool rest. Secure that there. So as I said, I'll now use the skew chisel, starting on the lines that I have marked in the middle section here of the timber, to work out to the outside ends to reduce the diameter on each end to 21 millimeters. This is now on 22 millimeters, so when I sand this down at the end, that will come down to 21. Now repeat this process on the right hand side, again using the skew chisel. The difference here is the tool will now face the opposite direction to create the taper towards the right hand side. Diameter of 24, a couple more millimeters to remove here. And again, we have that to a diameter there of 22, so I'll be able to sand away the final millimeter to bring that to the required diameter. What I'm going to quickly do is remark my lines at 55 and 100 as they have been removed once I've been using the skew chisel there. Once I remark those lines, I'll then apply fillet to those areas, as we can see here in the working drawing. To apply the fillets, I'm going to use the small skew chisel. It's going to be resting on these lines, and I'm going to rotate slightly in both directions to create a curved edge on both lines. If we check the working drawing, we can see that we also have a small fillet to apply to this edge here, and a larger fillet to apply to the back edge here on the left. So I'll do that again using the skew chisel, using the same process, just rotating slightly against the tool wrist. So I'm now happy that I have turned this down to the required diameters. In each area I've applied the fillets where they were needed. All that I need to do now is apply a quality finish to the product. So that's going to involve removing the tool rest, increasing the speed of the lathe to 10, and sanding down the piece before applying a wax finish. So I'll sand it down beginning with 80 grit sandpaper, working my way up to 150 and then 240. Once I've sanded it down and I'm happy that I've got a smooth surface, I will apply a wax finish. So I'm going to remove the tool rest just now. I'll bring this one out of the way, loosen this handle off here and remove the tool rest completely. I will now collect sandpaper and sand the piece down at a speed of 10. Now when it comes to sanding the turned piece, beginning with the P80 sandpaper, what we probably want to use is the handle here, where we can wrap the sandpaper around and use this to apply more pressure. In some areas, such as in here for the fillets, I will have to remove this and sand it by hand, but I don't want to do that for too long, as the friction will build up, the heat will build up under the sandpaper, and I'll be able to feel that through my hands, which won't be very comfortable. So for the most part, I will be using the handle. So I'm going to increase the speed of the lathe to 10 and sand this down, beginning with the P80, working my way through to the highest grit sandpaper. So I've now sanded this down, I've got a nice smooth surface texture. I'm happy with this at all points, so I can now apply my wax finish. So when we apply our wax finish, we want to take a rag, apply the soft wax to this rag. Don't need an awful lot, small amount will do. So I have a small amount of wax on my rag. I'm going to keep the speed of the lathe at 10 and apply this wax to the turned piece. I'll then be able to use a clean rag to buff the wax off. So, happy that I've now applied a high quality finish to the turned piece. I'll be able to remove it from the lathe. This is now ready for its final process, so we'll be able to saw the end off here, and I'll be able to drill the required hole to the required depth on the end here according to the working drawing.